The settlement on Proxima 7 had seen better days. 3 years after first contact, the colony struggled to maintain its foothold on the dusty frontier world. Tom Richards wiped the red dirt from his weathered hands as he closed up his repair shop for the evening. The twin suns cast long shadows across the pre-faded buildings that made up the human outpost. A sound stopped him at his door. Not the usual wind or the distant hum of generators, but something else. A soft chirping, barely audible over the evening breeze. Tom turned his head, listening. There it was again, coming from the alley beside his workshop. He approached cautiously. The local fauna could be dangerous, and not everything on this planet was friendly. But what he found made his breath catch in his throat. A bundle of cloth lay against the wall, and from within it came that plaintive chirping sound. Tom knelt down and carefully pulled back the fabric. 2 large eyes stared up at him, luminous and golden in the fading light. The creature was no bigger than a human infant, with silvery skin that shimmered faintly. Its small chest rose and fell rapidly, and those enormous eyes held an expression he recognized despite the alien features. Fear and desperation. Tom looked around. The alley was empty, but he noticed tracks in the dust. Not human tracks. These were 3-toed, dragging slightly as if whatever made them had been exhausted. They led away into the gathering darkness beyond the settlement perimeter. The baby made another sound, weaker this time. Tom made his decision quickly. He gathered the bundle into his arms and stood, feeling how light the creature was. Too light. He could feel its bones through the thin fabric. Inside his small living quarters above the shop, Tom laid the bundle on his workbench under the bright lights. The baby was clearly malnourished, its skin dull where it should have been lustrous. He had no idea what to feed an alien infant, but he knew someone who might. Dr. Lisa Hayes ran the settlement's medical facility, and if anyone had studied the native species, it would be her. Tom wrapped the baby carefully and made his way through the quiet streets. The colony numbered barely 200 souls, and most were inside for the evening meal. Lisa's eyes went wide when she saw what Tom carried. She ushered him inside immediately, clearing an examination table. Under her practiced hands and scanning equipment, the full picture emerged. The baby was a member of the Ven species, one of the native peoples who had been displaced when the colony arrived. Malnutrition, dehydration, and early stages of hypothermia, despite the warm climate. "This baby won't survive the night without intervention," Lisa said grimly. She was already preparing a nutrient solution, adjusting the formula based on what little data existed about Ven biology. "Where did you find her?" Tom explained about the tracks, about the bundle left at his door. Lisa's expression softened as she worked. The mother must have been desperate. The Ven settlements have been struggling since we restricted their access to the water processors. They think we're stealing their resources. Are we? Tom asked quietly. Lisa didn't answer, focusing instead on inserting a thin tube that would deliver nutrients directly. The baby stirred weakly, but didn't fight. Tom watched those golden eyes flutter closed, and something in his chest tightened. He should have gone home. Should have left the baby in Lisa's capable hands. Instead, he found himself following those tracks out beyond the settlement perimeter as the larger moon rose. He took a flashlight and a canteen of water, moving carefully through the rocky terrain. He found her collapsed beside a boulder, about half a mile from the colony. She was larger than a human, perhaps 7 feet tall, but emaciated to the point where her ribs showed clearly through her silvered skin. Her breathing was shallow, and she didn't move when Tom approached. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "Your baby is safe. She's getting help." The Ven woman's eyes opened, and Tom saw the same golden luminescence as her child's, though dimmed with exhaustion. She made a sound, something between a word and a moan. Tom held the canteen to her lips. She drank desperately, water spilling down her chin. When the canteen was empty, he supported her weight and began the slow journey back to the settlement. She leaned heavily on him, barely able to stand, let alone walk. Each step was an effort, but Tom persisted. He had carried heavy equipment before, and he was stronger than he looked. The colony gates were locked for the night, but the guards knew Tom. They stared at the alien woman, but let them pass after Tom explained the situation. Back at the medical facility, Lisa's surprise turned to professional calm as she assessed her new patient. The Ven woman, whose name Tom learned was Nala, had been surviving on almost nothing for weeks. Her settlement had been forced to relocate when the colony expanded its water extraction operations, and the new location had poor resources. When her mate died in an accident, she had struggled alone to feed herself and her baby. In the end, starvation had left her with an impossible choice. She left the baby where she knew humans would find her. Lisa explained to Tom 3 days later, after Nala had recovered enough to communicate through a translation device. She thought we would at least keep the child alive, even if we sent her away. Tom sat beside Nala's bed. The woman looked stronger now, her skin regaining its natural shimmer. Across the room in a small bassinet, her daughter slept peacefully, no longer chirping in distress. "I am sorry," Nala said through the translator, her voice melodic despite the mechanical reproduction. "I had no choice. I could not watch Myra die." "You don't need to apologize," Tom replied. He had been thinking a lot over the past few days. Thinking about the colony's expansion, about the Ven people who had been pushed to the margins of their own world, about desperate mothers making impossible choices. We should be the ones apologizing. Over the following weeks, something changed in the settlement. Tom wasn't alone in his guilt. When word spread about what had happened, other colonists began asking questions. Why were the Ven restricted from the water processors when there was plenty to share? Why had the colony expanded without proper negotiation? Why had they ignored the suffering just beyond their walls? The colony administrator, a man named Marcus Webb, initially resisted the pressure. But public opinion was strong, and eventually compromises were reached. The Ven settlements would have access to water and medical care. A proper dialogue would begin about resource sharing and territorial boundaries. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Tom found himself at the center of it all, somewhat to his surprise. He hadn't meant to become an advocate, but Nala and Mira had changed something in him. He began learning the Ven language, working with Lisa to establish better medical protocols for treating both species. His repair shop became an unofficial meeting place where humans and Ven could interact peacefully. Nala recovered fully, her strength returning along with her hope. But she didn't return to her old settlement immediately. Tom had offered his small living quarters as temporary housing, sleeping in his workshop while Nala and Myra used his rooms. It was cramped and awkward at first, but they developed a routine. Tom learned that Nala was an artist, creating beautiful sculptures from the redstone that covered the planet. In return for his hospitality, she began teaching him about Ven culture, their history on this world that stretched back thousands of years before humans arrived. Mira grew stronger each day, her chirps becoming less desperate and more curious. One evening, as the twin suns set and painted the sky in shades of purple and gold, Nala found Tom on the roof of his shop. He often went there to think. "You did not have to do this," she said, sitting beside him. Mira was strapped to her chest in a traditional Ven-carrying cloth, sleeping peacefully. "Take us in. Fight for my people. You could have left us to our fate." Tom shook his head. "No, I couldn't have. When I saw Myra in that alley, when I found you collapsed out there, I realized something. Being human doesn't mean being cruel or indifferent. It means having the capacity to choose kindness, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Nala was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and placed her hand over Tom's. Her skin was cool to the touch, slightly textured, completely alien. And yet the gesture was unmistakably one of gratitude and connection. "In my language," she said softly, "we have a word, kathara. It means one who sees another's pain and makes it their own, not from obligation, but from recognition that all life is connected. You are kathara, Tom Richards." Tom didn't know what to say to that. He simply nodded, watching the stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. The same stars visible from Earth, though from a different angle. The same universe, just seen through different eyes. Myra stirred in her sleep and made a small, contented sound. In that moment, Tom understood that this was what it truly meant to be human among the stars. Not conquest or domination, but the simple, profound act of opening one's door to a stranger in need. Of choosing compassion over convenience. Of building bridges instead of walls. The settlement on Proxima 7 still had a long way to go. There would be setbacks and struggles ahead. But on that rooftop, with an alien mother and child beside him, Tom Richards felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope.